Welcome to Retirement Talk. Today, we're going to talk about how to make your kid a millionaire, which actually may seem a little bit odd, but it's amazing that when you talk to people today and you say, what's your goal, financial goal, it's typically to make $1 million. Now that's problematic when you consider a generation today that is not really good savers. And Pete, we're dealing with the fact that school systems today in effect have kind of dumbed our kids down. They're not talking about finance. They're not talking about saving for the future, things that were basic when we were kids. Now that was a long time ago for you and I. So how do you make your kid a millionaire?
Yeah, well, first you got to make them a thousandaire,
Yeah.
okay? So a lot of kids, $1,000 saved would be a big deal. So $1 million is a stretch, but it's a lot more doable than you think. And obviously, we believe strongly in the fact that children need to learn financial principles when they're very, very young. Mm-hmm. And one of the hardest things for them to learn, and adults too, I think, is saving money. We're really good at spending money. You don't have to teach anybody how to spend money. You have to teach them how to unspend money and how to save money. But if you get kids started on the right track, it's like anything, whether it's reading or exercise or anything, the younger you start them, the more they get into the pattern, they think that's just normal. And so they don't get it in school, but there's ways for them to get it, and we think you need to be teaching your children, grandchildren, those around you at as early an age as possible.
Yeah, I'm pretty upfront with my kids.
Yeah.
Pretty realistic with them. They know a lot about my finances. I'm much more concerned about them having a good financial acumen than I am them knowing what my mortgage is.
Right.
But I will tell you, it kind of starts with the foundation today. Kids are a little bit entitled in a lot of cases. Do I want to leave inheritance for my kids one day and stuff? Yeah. But teaching your kids that they've got to make it on their own, giving them financial acumen versus having them be entitled, is so important.
Yeah, it really is. And again, it's not something you can just leave for other people. The teachers at school or their friends or, other adults in their life, even if they, through church and whatever, there's very little that they're actually going to pick up about those things. So it really is our responsibility as parents, as grandchildren, or grandparents, to teach those children those important principles. And it really is a shame that it isn't taught. But there are ways to make money. And here's the thing, John. We know that compound interest and time builds money.
Yep. Time
builds money more than rate of return. So the longer period that you have to learn to invest, $50, $100, $200, and so on, and that begins to snowball and compound, it's amazing how having 30, 40, 50 years for that money, even 60 years if you start, when you're like 5 years old, teaching them how to put money in that piggy bank, and then seeing that build up, and then actually teaching them how to use a bank. All of those things are very, very important.
Yeah, and then teaching them that delayed gratification is important.
Yes,
and what an investment it is versus something that the culture tells them they want. I'll give you a great example of this. My middle son asked me one time, he goes, Dad, my wife and I were fortunate enough to buy some investment real estate. And he said, Dad, instead of buying some investment real estate, you should have bought a Ferrari. Yeah. So, first of all, I don't have any hair to blow in the wind, so why would I want to buy a Ferrari? So I said, well, let's kind of take your example. And as I said, I'm very realistic with my kids. I sat down and I showed them the numbers on the investment property, what I had put as a down payment, how much the interest was, but how much rent I was getting. And then I said, well, let's look up a Ferrari. And we looked up a Ferrari, and I showed them what a Ferrari cost. And then I showed them what a Ferrari was worth 4 or 5 years down the road versus a piece of real estate. Now, does that mean you can never enjoy life and have a Ferrari if you're fortunate enough and blessed to be able to afford something like that? No, but I assure you, with my kids, and especially my 14-year-old, that left a mark with him. He's like, well, Dad, when you look at it, he goes, you're going to make a lot more money off investing that versus buying something that loses value. So again, there's really tangible ways that you can teach your kids those things. And guess what, folks? If you're not teaching them, they're being taught.
Yeah.
They're just being taught by the culture that's not going to equip them for life.
Yeah, and here's a real life example of how to make that kid, as per our topic, $1 million or more. For instance, you can open up a custodial IRA for your child or grandchild at a certain, it can be a traditional, it could be a Roth. So here's a perfect example. So let's say Avery makes $5,000 per year between the ages of 16 to 21 working at Walmart. And so in those 5 years, she makes $5,000, but she spends some of it and she invests $200 a month. So $2,400 per year for each of the 5 years, and lets that money sit and continue to compound and grow, but never puts any more money into it after she's 21. So just leaves it alone, and it's in an ETF or some kind of fund that follows the stock market. And let's say that over that 45 or so years, it grows by 11% average. Some years going to be higher, some years lower. 11% interest would bring that to a little over $1 million when she's 60 years old. That's pretty incredible. Just a little bit of money for 5 years and then leaving it alone and letting it grow, compounding over time again, over $1 million. So that's exactly how you can teach your kid to have $1 million at age 60 if you would like to teach them that. And so it's not as difficult as it appears to be. It's a matter of being disciplined and starting early. So we appreciate you watching our show today. Be sure to subscribe to get our latest episodes. And for more information on this and other topics, go to retirementtalk.com.